As I've mentioned a few times this morning, this is a very special and holy day in our liturgy, in our calendar. This is Shabbat HaGadol. This is the big Shabbat. This is the Shabbat that comes right before Pesach, the one that comes right before liberation, and therefore it is emphasized over and over again in our tradition. A little piece of history about Shabbat HaGadol. By the time of the Middle Ages and then going past the Middle Ages into even contemporary Judaism, this used to be a very special Shabbat where one of the hallmarks of this Shabbat is that the rabbi would speak for over 4 or 5 hours as this great message of pre-Passover oration, the sermon. My Pesach present to all of you is that I will not do such a thing. In fact, I'm going to do something a little bit different this morning because this is such a special Shabbat, and I love this Shabbat because one of the great things about this is that we get to see people that we haven't seen in a long time. Friends and family come in for Pesach Seders, and this gives us an opportunity to be family in our completion, to be able to sit together and be together. This is mishpacha, right? So instead of lecturing to you for 4 hours, we'll do something a little bit different. And what I want to do this morning is provide you all with a Pesach wellness check. This is your check-in. How are you all doing? Honestly, how are you all doing? We're a few days for Pesach Seders. Anyone's anxiety levels, stress levels a little high? It makes sense. And if I want to be full disclosure, I am amongst family here. I am a pretty anxious person normally. Pre-Passover, it gets intense. Truly even more so than high holidays. Before getting ready for Passover is intense. It's stressful. Because as an anxious person, I see the different things that need to get done, but there's also a million other things that need to get done, and when I think I've checked something off my list, this part of the house is clean, this part of the house is clean, and then I go into my car and drive to work, and then I realize that there's more chametz in my car than a Parisian bakery. And then there's one more thing I have to add to my list. So truly, the week before Pesach, the week before Passover can feel stressful. It can feel anxiety-provoking. And I don't think that I'm alone in that. I know that stress levels can be high. And I just want to first and foremost validate that. Because that's where we are. We are in the pre-Pesach mode, and it is stressful, and it is filled with anxiety. And because our tradition is so beautiful and profound, this actually coincides exactly with what we're talking about when it comes to Passover Seders. When we sit down and tell the story of our ancestors, when we sit down and tell the Pesach story, what we're talking about is stress and anxiety. Because, of course, we eat our matzah. Our rabbis drash on this. Why do we eat matzot? Why do we eat unleavened bread? Because in such an urgency and so hurried our ancestors were that they didn't even have time for the bread to rise. And so that's what we think about as we get ready for Pesach. That stress, that urgency, that sense of hustling. And that is part of our Pesach Seder. But here's the important part. This is the wellness check. This is the important part of all of this, is that when we sit down and we have our Pesach Seders together as family, as friends, as neighbors, as community, we have to remember that the story goes beyond that. We really emphasize when we talk about Magid, we talk about slavery and bondage and the plagues and what it means to be stuck in Egypt. We talk about it over and over again. But my friends, when we talk about anything in Judaism, whether it be holidays, whether it be liturgy, whether it be ritual, all of it is for a greater reason and a greater purpose. We don't get together on Pesach simply to tell the story of our ancestors. Our HaGadol over and over again tells us that when we sit down, it is us ourselves leaving Egypt. Not telling the stories of those who did. We are leaving Egypt. So here is the important thing. This is the wellness check. This is the takeaway. We have to leave Egypt. We have to. That is what this is all about. That is what this entire holiday is about. Because it is Man Cherutenu, this is the time of our freedom. And if we compound the stress and the anxiety that leads us to Pesach, but then we just hold on to the stress and the anxiety that gets us to Pesach, and we don't embrace the freedom and the liberation that comes from Pesach, then it was all for naught. And it's all for naught. I was driving to pick up Elior the other day at his school, and he goes to school in Royal Oak. And I was driving down 4th Street in Royal Oak, and it came to a crosswalk, and there was a woman with a stroller, a baby stroller, standing in the crosswalk, getting ready to cross the street. It's 25 miles per hour speed limit in that street. So I stopped. I let the woman in the stroller cross the street. And the man behind me lays on his horn and is yelling at me and beeping his horn as loud as he can. And because it was Wednesday, it was a gorgeous day, we had our windows down, right? So I looked my head out the window and I said, "It's a crosswalk." And you could tell that the man wasn't thinking about anything rationally in this moment. And he responds to me by saying, "Was she even in the street yet?" And I turned to him and I said, "Sir, that's not how crosswalks work. You don't only stop when someone's halfway across the street. That's not how this works." And he said, "You can't stop on a main road like this and stop traffic." And then again, I turned my head back and saw just me and him on 4th Street. And I said, "Sir, first of all, if you consider 4th Street in Royal Oak to be a main street, I don't know what to tell you. But this is just you and me, stopped right here, to let a mother and her baby cross the street." And then he said some objectionable things and drove past me and sped away. And I waved goodbye at him, waved one direction or the other, I can't remember, and he drove away. And I thought to myself, man, what a jerk. Like, what an angry person. Then the more I think about it, the more I realize that I don't think he's so different from how all of us kind of are in this moment, where we are in society, where we are so wound up and so tight and so consistently on edge that it goes to an extreme if a woman and a baby stroller crossing your path make you freak out. I will validate that. But I think all of us are constantly at this place where one minor inconvenience, where something that makes us stop when we are always constantly in the go, the rush, the energy, that everything needs to be done, when any of that is interrupted, it makes us blow up. That is this anxiety, the stress that's constantly turning up. We have to leave Egypt. We have to leave Egypt. Egypt is the place where all of that stress compounds, where we can blow up at a mother and her baby for crossing the street. Egypt is the place where we feel so obligated to get to certain places right on time, or get that sense of urgency that everything needs to be done. It has to be done right now, all of which, by the way, almost all of which, are human constructions, human deadlines that are proposed, that are given to us. Egypt is the place where all of those things become more important than anything else. We have to leave Egypt. And we don't do it just one night. The whole point of Pesach, the whole point of Passover, is that we get to this point, we get to the point in the story where we get to sit together with our friends and family, and it was tons of work to put that meal together, and it was tons of work to get the chairs in the right place, and the tables in the right place, and the HaGadol all set out nicely, and everyone together, and then what do? We recline. It's done. Ata b'nei chorin. Now we are free people. And what free people means in the Torah and in our tradition is not that we get to do whatever we want. That's not what it means. It means that we get the freedom to serve God. And the things that God asks of us in Pesach and beyond is not to worry about the deadlines or getting to a specific place at exactly the right moment, or getting all of our emails answered right in that moment, or whatever it might be. What God asks us to do is to take a look around, to dafka see the mother and her baby crossing the street, to see the blessings in our lives, to take a step back and to recognize that freedom is the ability to count our blessings. That is true freedom. That is the holiday of Passover. And if we don't leave Egypt, we don't get to experience it. And then it's all for naught. Our rabbis thought that this was such an incredible way of giving mindfulness to our lives that they incorporated something in addition, something that we do starting on the second night of Pesach, which is that at the conclusion of our Seders, we start counting the Omer. Now, for the great majority of us, I would deem to say all of us, we're not barley farmers. Counting a barley harvest doesn't seem to be that applicable to our lives. So why would we spend time each and every day counting a day of the barley harvest? Because our rabbis are saying that it's not about the barley harvest. It's about something else. And what our rabbis tell us is that it's about taking 1 minute every night until we get to Shavuot to take a step back and to say, Baruch Atah Hashem. Blessed are you, our God. Blessed are you, our God, who has freed us from Egypt and who has given us, you name it. But the holiness, the profundity of that moment for each and every night to be able to take a step back and to say, thank you, God, for one blessing in our lives. That's the freedom. That's the freedom that this is all about. So I'm going to invite you to do something with me this year. If you've never counted the Omer before, or if it's not part of your normal Jewish practice, it doesn't have to be exactly the way that it's written in your Siddur, but I will invite you each and every night, and I'm going to put this up on some of our social media and our emails as well, so we can follow this through together, but each and every night, I'm going to invite you to remember that you left Egypt. You're not in Egypt. You're free. And what that freedom means is that each and every night you get to take 1 minute to say thank you. 1 minute to let the woman in the stroller cross the street. To worry not about all of the other meshugas, all of the other narishkeit that fills up our minds and our hearts and our anxieties, that has us constantly on edge, but 1 minute to think about family, friends, a roof over our heads, warm water in our showers, hot food to eat, whatever it might be. Because the barley harvest is not the barley harvest. It is the harvesting of all of our blessings each and every day that reminds us that we are B'nai Chorin. My friends, this is your wellness check. And it is a wellness check to all of us because I think we need it. We are so tightly wound. But as we get to our Pesach Seders in just a couple of nights, first know that I am thankful for you. I am thankful for my family. I am thankful for my friends. I am thankful for this family. Because this is what it's all about. This is what it means to be free. So I hope that you will join me this year in second night Pesach and beyond as we count those blessings together, that we don't just count each and every day, we make every day count. Because that's what all of this is about. May we all leave Egypt. May we all understand our freedom. And may we all have a Chag Sameach. Shabbat Shalom.